next video is brought to you by this Imperial soldier. I think this is a Pirates of the Caribbean sort of guy. Okay, we're looking at the annual percentage rate calculation. So there are these, like most lenders add these upfront fees to loans, and then you pay for them over the lifetime of the loan. So that means, as the author's pointing out here, that actual interest rate is higher than the quoted rate because you're getting charged interest on these fees that you're being paid. And that's where this APR is coming from, which is the required by law disclosure of the annual interest rate. It turns out these can be somewhat complicated to calculate. There are ones that Excel or a TI-84 can calculate. I don't believe that Desmos does these. We're not actually particularly concerned about them. What we're going to work with is what happens when we pay off a loan early. How much would we save? And we're going to use the rule of 78. And what this is called is the unearned interest. So this is the amount of finance charge that you save when you pay off a loan early, so before the end of the term. You should note that sometimes loans have an early payoff fee, because when you sign this contract, the lender is guaranteed to earn this certain amount of interest from you. And so if you pay it off early, they don't get all that interest. And maybe they wanted all that interest. So just pay attention when you're signing these loans. Is there an early payoff fee or is there not? Okay, so this is the formula. It's sum F, where F is the finance charge that we talked about calculating earlier. K is the number of remaining monthly payments. And then N, same thing we've had before, it's the total number of payments when you took out the loan. So we're going to go back to the very first problem we started with in this section, and that is this car that was $12,260. We had a down payment of $3,000, all these things. And we're going to use the rule of 78 to find out how much interest you'd save if you paid the loan off with 12 remaining payments. What that means is our K is exactly 12. So the original N here was 48. And I'm just going to do a quick F calculation just to remind us of how that is calculated, even though we did it like 10 pages earlier. So the finance charge is the difference between all of the monthly payments, so the 231 times 48, minus the amount we borrowed, the P. So the P here is the 12,260 minus the 3,000. That was the 9,260. This is a great place for Desmos to pop in here. So 231.50 times 48. We paid $11,112 to borrow $9,260. So our finance charge is the $1,852. We'll come back here to Desmos in a second. Let's now write up our unearned interest formula because we have all the pieces we need, the F, the N, and the K. So here's the $1,852 extra that we pay. And what this formula is doing is it's parsing out the extra that we are not going to have to pay, and it's spreading it out over these 12 months. So notice that I'm writing the thing in exactly as it is in the formula, but these are pretty simple addition problems. 12 plus 1 is 13. 48 plus 1 is 49. So you could write those out if you wanted to, or you could do it exactly how I'm doing it and just type the formula in exactly as you see it, which is what I'm doing here in Desmos. And here it is. Not a whole lot of money. $122.84. So what this is telling us is if we paid a lump sum, we're going to figure that out in a second, in 12 months before the end of our loan, so 12 months early, we would save $122.84. Well, let's figure out how much do we have to pay in this at this point, and this is in month 36, since there's 48 months in the length of this loan. in order to save this $122, and then we'll decide if it's worth it. So the first step would be to find the total cost of all the remaining payments after the 36th month. So we owe 12 months of payments at $231.50. This is how much money we still owe on this car. So we'll scan for the Desmos. We'll get that number, 12 times 231.50. Okay, we still owe $2,778. All right. Then what we were going to do, because we calculated that 122.84, we're going to subtract that number. So we'll have this amount that we would have to pay in the 36th month minus the amount we were saving because we're paying it early. And this is what we would call the early payoff amount. So I'm just going to take this and subtract 122.84. We need to pay $2,655.16 in the 36th month. Is it worth it? Well, let's see. Pros. We save $122.84. Not a whole lot of money, but we save it. Second, we no longer have a monthly payment. Of that $231.50. So we now have that much in our budget. I know there's two cons that come right off the top of my head. Of course, you all might have more cons you could come up with. We need a lump sum of cash available to us to pay. We need to be able to have this cash that we hand over. The second thing is our credit score may take a small hit because we've paid off these early. So that is I've heard that said. I don't know how true that is. It could happen.